Hello and welcome. I'm Amanda and I'm going to be painting some stuff today. I'm at Battleground Games and Hobbies in Abington, Massachusetts. Battleground is a gaming and hobby store with 3 locations in the greater Boston area. We have one in Abington, which is where I am. We have one in Norton, which is further south of Boston. We have one up north in Saugus. And I'm in Abington not only because it's closer to where I live, but also because we have this lovely loft. And the loft allows me to stream. So that's where all of our streaming gear is. I'm going to be painting some miniatures today. I'm going to be painting from Highlander, the board game, by River Horse. I've been working on these for a little while because I only really get to paint once a week. So I finished the base game last week. I finished all the figures in the base game. So, and I'm working on the expansion figures. So last week I finished the Kurgan in his modern get-up. A whole lot of black, which is always a challenge. And Ikimusek, which is the name that they've used, the backstory they've put together for Ramirez, who says that he's from Egypt in the movie. I believe he actually says it. It's not just like off-screen lore, but he's played by Sean Connery, and he's not Egyptian. But whatever. They couldn't get Sean Connery's likeness anyway because it's ridiculously expensive to use Sean Connery's likeness in a game. Excuse me. Excuse me again. But they, instead of sort of spending all of their money on getting his likeness and then sort of having to skimp on other things, they instead did not bother with that, which I appreciate. I do not need Sean Connery's face on this particular character when it comes to the minis. But what they did do was they came up with a whole lot of backstory for a lot of characters. They filled in a lot of blank spaces when it comes to the backstory of a lot of the characters, and one of those was Ramirez. And in the expansion, the base game has like Connor MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod wearing the MacLeod tartan. It's got Ramirez in his sort of red outfit with the peacock feather cloak. It's got the Kurgan with the skull helmet. It's got Sunda Castigear in the sort of plaid sort of overcoats, that like flowy robe that he's wearing when he and Connor meet on the bridge. So it's got a variety of characters in their sort of early life get-ups and characters in their as seen in the movie get-ups. The only one that you actually really, I guess you see Castigear, because there is that scene where you do get to see Castigear in his frock coat, but you don't get to see him on Facile in anything other than his boring black suit, and you definitely don't get to see Ramirez in like ancient Egypt. So what they did was they found, they sort of put together stories for the characters that fill in a lot of holes, and then they made figures for the other side of whatever they were doing. So if a character has their modern day get-up in the base game, they've got their ancient outfit in the expansion, in the Prince of expansion, and vice versa. So for Connor, because he's in his kilt and his loosely woven cloak that I can't see actually making much of a difference. Hey, Andy? I'm still seeing a hosted thing, which is weird because I could have sworn it was gone. Oh no, there it is. My channel decided to keep hosting, but it isn't actually doing that. So they put together the same number of figures, but in the same characters, just at different points in their lives, either earlier in their life or later in their life, which is really cool. They also created 2 new characters for the game because face it, Energy has a lot of dudes. A lot of immortal dudes. Not many female characters just in general, and definitely no female immortals. It's okay, it's fine, Andy.
Yeah, the music's a little loud. I'm going to turn the music.
I can't even hear it now.
I can hear you fine, but the music's still
Okay. Anyway, I'm really happy with what they did. I really like the gameplay. I really enjoy playing the game. So we did Kurgan last week. We finished him. His tattoo and leather jacket with only one arm. And we did our Egyptian character. I do want to go back in and brighten up this bit here because I put a wash on it last week and then I let it dry because washes take forever to dry, and I wanted to get it looking bright again because right now he looks very sepia-toned. And then I think we're going to work on Russell Nash, which is Connor MacLeod's modern day persona. And we're also, I think, going to try and work on Ixtalali. Here she is. She's killed a conquistador. I support her in this endeavor. She is one of the characters that they made up for the board game. She is Ixtalali in the expansion, which is her original persona. It's her original name. And she was intended to be a sacrifice in order to sort of get the conquistadors and the many evils they were bringing away from her people and to sort of appease the gods. And unfortunately, when she was sacrificed, the sacrifice didn't take. She came back to life. That's not going to be seen as a good sign. If you're supposed to sacrifice someone and then they're alive again, that's maybe bad. So she came back to life, and she and her father fled because no one thought that was a good thing except for maybe her. And she started sort of being kind of a freedom fighter, trying to help the native peoples of like Mesoamerica. Unfortunately, that whole area is really unstable, and there are a lot of reasons why. The U.S. is one of them, but as time went on, she became less of a freedom fighter and more of just, okay, fine, I'm gonna run guns because that's what people want, and it's gonna help protect at least some people. That's where she becomes Talia. And this is the character as she appears in the base game. Still wielding that MacLeod, which is a MacLeod. So I looked this up. I practiced saying it. It's basically a wooden club. It's analogous in terms of shape and size to a cricket bat almost, except it tapers a little more towards the handle instead of being more straight. She carries this. It's this wooden club, and you'd think, how can you behead someone with a wooden club? Turns out, that is apparently very possible with a MacLeod, because these little black bits on the edge are obsidian chips, and they have been wedged into the edges of the blade. And they're sharp. Obsidian is volcanic glass. And it does, you can nap it into very sharp chips. And so she did, and that's what she carries. It is both a bludgeoning and a slicing weapon. So you can do slashing damage and bludgeoning damage at the same time, apparently, with this weapon. So, There's actually a card in the game. There's the sword deck in the game, or weapons you can obtain through various challenges or encounters in the era deck and the encounter deck. And the swords that you can get are the swords that the characters carry. And the MacLeod is one of them, and it's actually just called like the brutal MacLeod. It's nasty. So this is the modern incarnation of her. I'm really pleased with how this character came out. I did paint in more shirt here. There was no sculpted bra or anything. It came down real low, and there's no way those are that perky at that size without some sort of support garment at work, so I painted that in. I also gave her some armpit hair because she's not shaving. Why would you? So yeah, I was really pleased with how the turquoise on her necklace came out, and if you look at her here, she is wearing a very similar necklace. So that's going to get painted very similarly. This mask is supposed to be sort of feathered, feathers in gold and a skull. So that's going to be fun. And she's got her hair pulled up back here, so I actually get to paint her hair a little bit more. I'm a little nervous about getting her skin tone right. I lucked into this. I painted her skin tone and then put a wash on it, and it came out perfectly. It came out exactly the color I was looking for. She looks burnished almost. She's got a nice tone here that shines in just the right places. I'm really happy, and I'm scared that I'm not gonna get it right next time. I did a very smart thing when I did a Ikimusek here, which was that I had just done a skin tone on Ramirez for the base game. And I had actually checked with a friend of mine whose family is from Egypt. And I said, would you buy that skin tone as coming from Egypt or the surrounding area? And she said yes. So I wanted to check. And what I did was I had custom mixed a color. And then while it was still wet on my palette, I painted this guy, even though I was still working on the base game. So he's done, Kurgan's done. They need a couple of little details, but we're mostly gonna work. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna keep Talia out so that I can try and match that skin tone. I'm just really nervous because this character is showing a lot more skin. She looks like, aside from the gaudy necklace, because like that's a connection with her life, her prior life. Aside from that, this character is sculpted to be very like reasonable. This is a character that you could see. She's hardy. She's not necessarily living in a city, but she could. But she could also tromp through the wilderness if she needed to. This is a character who gets stuff done. She's got her hair tied back. She's got a bandana on to keep it out of her face. She's got actual cargo pants. I made them camo, but I mean, they didn't have to be. But she's got like cargo pockets. These are not fitted capri women's cargo pants. These are functional pants. And her shirt is, like, aside from the fact that she didn't really have anything painted in or sculpted in to, like, hold up the boobs, that's a perfectly reasonable shirt. It doesn't have a really low-cut front or anything. No, this is a character who is dressed for hot, dirty work walking through mud. That's what she's dressed for, and I totally appreciate that. This is a character dressed for gaining followers and influencing the people around her and killing conquistadors and scaring the living crap out of them. That's what she's dressed for. She's got the same weapon. We've got the same MacLeod here, so you can see it before it's been painted. But otherwise, yeah, she's gonna be a bit of a challenge because I'm gonna have to match that skin tone, and there's a lot more skin to match. We're gonna work on Russell Nash first, though. Maybe I should work on the skin first. Let's see. So let's get some stuff working. I've also got something else going on in my ear right now because I'm listening to a thing. I'm gonna turn that down a little bit though. Some people I quite like are playing a game I'm really excited about, so that's the reason I'm starting a little bit later today than I normally do. So I'm sort of checking that out. But I have that going on in my background. But we have a laptop to run the chat off of, so I actually can see the chat up on the monitor. Very exciting. All right. Let's see what we can do. How did I should have written down what I used. Because the thing is, it's the wash that brought that real warm shade to her. It brought the color down a lot. It darkened it a lot, which was awesome because it was more what I had in mind when I started painting it. Well, you know what? This is a good reason for doing her skin early, because then if I mess it up, it has time to dry and for me to sort of figure it out. Better to do it now. So I do have my palette sort of right here. I've found that when I keep my palette over here, I'm crossing over myself a lot. Yeah, that's a good idea, Andy. Andy's saying, for the benefit of anyone who can't see the chat, to make a chatbot function to link the music. So, because when this goes up on YouTube, there's no chat. But music that we tend to listen to on the stream, especially the painting streams, the music is almost always Miracle of Sound. Miracle of Sound is a musician out of Ireland, Gavin Dunn, and he's largely a solo act, but he will bring in other vocal artists when he feels like he needs a female voice in his music, which is very cool. We've had the great luck to see him live in concert a couple of times, which was absolutely amazing every time. The first time was kind of an accident. Not an accident, but we hadn't fully intended on watching. But the second time was very intentional. I feel like this may start a little too dark, and we need to go lighter so that the wash will darken her up more. worth noting, we are at 199 followers on this channel. I would absolutely love to hit 200 today. I think that would be super cool. I love the OCs that River Horse created for this. I love that they created a couple of really different characters, like Namanaga and Talia, or Ixtlali. They're very different people. They're very different, like, women coming from very different societies and very different places in their lives. I just love that they went there, that they did such really interesting stuff. I am putting a little bit of the skin tone in around the mask, largely because she does have a face under there. I mean, that's real butt back there. Oh, you know what? She needs some trimming. Feels like her feet, unfortunately, got sculpted into the base here. Oh, maybe this skin tone will work. I mean, honestly, maybe she's spending more time outside, so she'll be more tanned. I'm gonna let her dry. I'm gonna bring up a picture of Connor in his Russell Nash getup. So it looks like he's wearing like a brown leather jacket. Let's face it, it's probably leather. Nah, it's leather. It's a leather jacket. Because this is definitely what he's wearing during that final match. He's not wearing his like creepy stalker trench coat. He's just wearing like jeans and a sweatshirt, kind of. Wow, that was a really good shot of up Ramirez's outfit that I totally didn't see when I was putting the Ramirez figure together. Oh well. I'm just looking for a good clear shot that shows like his shirt, which is tricky because so many of the scenes during that final duel happen in poorly lit places. Like they happen in that sort of iconic blue lit room with all the windows behind them. And how the hell can you tell what color his shirt is in that? You can't tell what color anything is in that. So I'm just scrolling through stills in IMDb, which actually does have a lot of stills from the movie. It was absolutely indispensable when I was doing the Kurgan in his modern outfit, because it's otherwise really difficult to find full body pictures of the Kurgan, like his pants from the modern day. There's a lot of shots of him from like the waist up and from the shoulders up. There aren't as many shots of him that actually show what's on his legs and his feet. You can see his boots pretty easily in the church scene because he's got his feet up on the back of one of the pews in front of him. But what his pants actually look like is a lot harder. And a lot of the scenes, a lot of the shots of him fighting in the end don't give you a great look because they're so dark. But there are a couple of screenshots that IMDb has from the movie that are much, much clearer. That really show you a lot of detail for the pants and stuff, which is cool. That and, amusingly enough, there were a couple of 12-inch action figures that were made for the movie that there's a Kurgan one that shows his pants, which is really funny. I feel like it's, so River Horse does have pictures from, they have pictures of their, like painted figures. They had a professional painter do their figures, and they do have pictures of those. And his shirt in that is like a light blue, but honestly, I don't think it is. I don't think it is. It looks a lot darker. It looks like a navy blue, which, given that he's wearing jeans, I can understand why you would want to go with a much lighter color. He is wearing white sneakers, which is really funny. I mean, they're gross by the end, but it does look like he's wearing a much darker sweatshirt underneath. He's not wearing a light colored sweatshirt underneath. Yeah, like looking at the shots of like the final quickening that he gets, it really is much darker. It's not a like pale blue shirt. That's a like grayish blue sweatshirt he's wearing. God, I love Highlander. I'm wearing my Highlander shirt today. Thought it was probably a good idea. Alright, so we need a denim blue for his jeans. And we're going to do a sort of grayish blue sweatshirt. I'm going to do like a mid-blue. Russell Nash is not a flashy dresser. Russell Nash is not an attention-getting character. Andy and I were talking about this earlier today, that the characters that you see in the movie, like, they change themselves up between lives. And that makes sense. That makes total sense. Okay. They change things up between lives because they're trying to hide. You're trying not to be noticed as being immortal. You don't want people to know you're the same person that they met, years and years ago. Duncan sort of throws caution to the wind, doesn't he? He goes by the same name all the time. This is not a man who seems to care if people identify him as being, why do I keep pulling the same exact bottle out of the thing as if it's going to say something different on it? He doesn't seem to care, is my point. Okay, so that's got to be what I want. Duncan doesn't care, apparently. He's always Duncan. And I'm sure that was a conscious decision on the part of the showrunners to just have Duncan always be Duncan, because he was the star of a series, an ongoing show. You want to have some continuity there. But there are other characters who are known under different names throughout the course of their lives. Now, sometimes you get characters like Felice Martins or Felicia Martins. Gee, I wonder if it's the same person. Sometimes you get stuff like that. Played by Joan Jett, by the way. Much as I like Joan Jett, and much as I like Highlander, let's be real here. Not an actress. Not an actress. Sorry, Joan. Yeah, I mean, good musician, bad actor. Highlander had this thing going where I guess I've read the reasoning, I don't remember the exact reasoning. I think the producers just sort of figured that because rock music was such a big part of the the original movie, because it had the soundtrack by Queen, and a lot of people sort of identified that very heavily with the movie. I mean, I know I do. They decided that having rock music as part of the series was going to be a selling point. And that meant they wanted to involve musicians in the creation of the show. They wanted to cast musicians in the show. And in the case of, like, Roger Daltrey, that was gold. That was a brilliant decision on their part. Roger Daltrey not only turned out to be a fairly decent actor, but had a lot of chemistry with Adrian Paul, and the two of them played off of each other as sort of best friends, but rivals at the same time. They just did it so perfectly. Their banter is just super sharp and funny, and they clearly get along really well together. So they played off each other really well, which is why they brought Fitz back as a character in multiple episodes, which is awesome. I love that. I love that. It's why Roland Gift from Fine Young Cannibals. Roland Gift plays Xavier St. Cloud, who's a really nasty villain, and he shows up a second time, and he turned out to be a pretty decent, like, actor playing a villain, and he was great. A couple of the musicians that they got in turned out to be fairly good at acting. And there wasn't necessarily an expectation that they would be. It was more, we have their names associated with the show. They didn't do it quite as much later on. They did have a couple of wrestlers involved in the show. I'm pretty sure the guy who played Khan. There were a couple of characters. They had a Rowdy Roddy Piper in one of the episodes. So they had, like, all these weird guest stars that weren't, like, huge names, but were niche huge names. And then they had a couple that were actually big names. Like Roger Daltrey's legitimately really famous. Joan Jett legitimately really famous. And, like, Rowdy Roddy Piper, yeah, people knew who he was, especially coming out of, like, the 80s and early 90s. So a show that was being filmed in the 90s, yeah, he was a name, people knew it. So that was going to be a big deal. They didn't do as much of it later in the series because they realized that actually their acting talent had enough acting talent that they didn't, like, the show's audience wasn't necessarily just there because of musicians' names or guest stars' names. They wanted to see Adrian Paul as Duncan. They wanted to see Elizabeth Grayson as Amanda. They wanted to see Alexandra Vandernoot as Tessa. And certainly later on seeing, like, Jim Burns as Joe, and having Joe and Duncan's interactions, Mithas and Duncan's interactions, Duncan and Amanda's interactions, Stan Kirsch as Richie, his interactions with Duncan and with Tessa and with Amanda later, and Joe and later on Mithas. They all had really interesting character dynamics, and the casting was actually pretty good. And the plots got deeper further in. The stories tackled a lot of, like, difficult questions about mortality and about ethics and memory and people changing over the course of their lives, and the fact that, like, being immortal affords you the time to change in a way that maybe a mortal lifespan doesn't. If you reinvent yourself and it turns out that you've actually managed to reinvent yourself, how much do other people need to accept that? And that comes into play on several different occasions. So the series kind of had a continuity that it had to follow. And I know that they wanted to keep Duncan sort of the core of that. So having Duncan never change his name and sort of always be Duncan MacLeod and always identifying himself as Duncan MacLeod gave them sort of a center there. I get it. It's also really funny. Because that's like a big deal in the movie that it's like, who's Connor MacLeod? Who is this guy, Russell Nash? He doesn't exist. Russell Nash died when he was a baby. That's a big deal. Like, yeah, the series doesn't go into that. It was like, well, yeah, logistically it would matter. We don't want to have to go through those logistics in every episode. They aren't what makes this interesting. So I get that. I get it. I get it. I understand. What sort of color did I give his hair? He's almost got like, he almost has a bit of red in his hair. So we'll do brown. Shall I? I don't think I'm going to do that brown. His leather jacket is definitely brown. We'll go with that for his jacket. And we'll go with this. We'll give it a little bit of red highlighting later. I feel like this particular figure has some of the most obvious seams. I haven't really had much in the way of seam issues with this. The figures are really well done. One thing River Horse does exceptionally well is really beautifully rendered and sculpted figures. And I've done a couple of their games now. I did Labyrinth, I did Dark Crystal, I did the Goblins expansion for Labyrinth, and the figures were all beautiful. Every single one of them. Doing the Dark Crystal, I feel like the Dark Crystal game was like just beautiful to do. Every bit of texturing in that is gorgeous. But for whatever reason, I feel like this particular figure just has a lot of a lot more seam. I'm going to move out of camera for a moment. Because I need to get a really good view on that. There we go. But I do feel like this particular one just has some more obvious seams. We're gonna do like a dark gray almost, for like a bluish gray, because his jeans are actually, he's not wearing a dark wash. He's wearing dad jeans. Makes sense. I've actually got, so this is actually, this particular shot that I'm using as reference is one that I also used when I was doing the Kurgan. I'm gonna show it off for a second, because I actually really love it. This is from a, this is a great shot, and it's well lit, and it's, I believe, Spanish language. It's like a Spanish language promotional poster. So you can really see the back of the Kurgan's jacket here. And you can see Connor's sneakers and his jeans. You can tell that his sweatshirt under here is dark, and that he's wearing a sort of mid-brown leather jacket. You can see the Kurgan's, all the stuff hanging off his coat there. So yeah, that's it. That particular shot is one that I've used a couple of times now. Because I definitely used it when I was doing the Kurgan. And I definitely used it now to get Connor. So yeah, let's do his jeans first. We're actually going to start with a twilight blue for his jeans. We're going to use this, we're going to highlight up, we're going to wash down, and then we're going to highlight again. I do it that way instead of just doing it and then a wash and then a highlight, because I like to be able to catch those highlights with the wash to create even more shades. I'm actually not going to use this particular brush for this. This is better for line work. I'm definitely going to have to touch up the skin tone in there, now that I've figured out where the border of the shirt is. The other thing I'm listening to is just finishing up, and that sounded really awesome. So. I mean, that looks pretty decent, honestly. That shirt's going to end up a lot darker, and those jeans are going to end up a lot lighter. But for now, that works. I mean, some of it could be that he gets wet, and you don't notice it on the Kurgan because he's wearing all black. So. This is the leather jacket, the brown for the leather jacket. It also is going to end up a lot darker. That's what I want to start with. So something really crummy happened to a leather worker and costume maker. There's a sort of team. There's a God Save the Queen Fashions, which is, she's a leather worker and she makes like costumes and props and stuff. I mean, she doesn't do the props so much, but like costume-based sort of prop work. And she, I believe, shares a workshop with Vulcan Props, who makes amazing prop stuff. Someone broke into their shop and stole a bunch of costume pieces right out of their front display, including a jacket that they made for The Rock to you wear in Rampage. They were hired to make a leather jacket for him, for his character, and they made one, and they had a spare that they were keeping in the shop for display purposes that had the coolest looking bit of fit work done, which is that the shoulder seam looks like a regular seam, but actually accordions out because The Rock is just huge. And so you need something that can expand to like give him mobility with the size that he is in his arms and shoulders. Really, really cool stuff. And unfortunately it was stolen right off its mannequin. So that sucks. And they did call the cops. I've been following this on Twitter. They make amazing looking stuff. I can in no way afford any of their stuff, but they make amazing looking stuff. And I just really appreciate seeing the work of like skilled costume and prop makers. And it's a real bummer to have something like that happen. From what they can tell, the person who did it must have been at least passingly familiar with the layout of their shop and what was on display, and had targeted the pieces that they took. They took a set of leathers that had been made by the leatherworking portion of the team for the guy who's behind Fulton Props, that were made to look like the Daft Punk stuff. It's like a Daft Punk costume. And they took a jacket made for a Tracer costume that she'd never gotten around to finishing, but she'd made the jacket. And took that. So, you know, if you're at a convention and you see those pieces, it's the sort of thing that riles you up the way it riles me up. It makes you angry like it makes me angry. It's worth taking a look on their Facebook page or their Twitter accounts. Pretty sure. Let's see. She posted about it. You kickstarted the Blackest Black 3.0? Amazing. Yeah, that should make for some fun stuff, let me tell you. I swear I just saw this on my Twitter feed, and it's annoying me that it's now taking so long for me to get back to it. There it is. So GSTQ Fashions on Twitter is Catherine Jones, who runs God Save the Queen Fashions. And yeah, she's the one whose work was stolen. Which sucks. So when we were playing Reckoners last week, and we were in New Chicago, and people were asking about the Cloud Gate. The bean! I had to really control myself to not, like, go in on the art feud. This is going to go a lot darker eventually. This is just base color. See what I mean about the seaming, though? I feel like there's more of an obvious seam on this one than some of the other ones. It's gonna happen. I have different music playing in my ears because I love Gav and I like Vistas, but one, I can't hear it very well unless I'm listening to the stream, in which case I speech jam myself and I can't do that. But also, much as I love Vistas, it is very calm. I will fall asleep. I'm always afraid of just being too calm on a stream. I need something more boppy in my ears. So I've got some techno playing in my head. Alright, Connor's gonna go sit for a little while and dry. We're gonna go back to her. Check something. That looks really good. Okay, cool. So it looks like a lot of this is inspired by traditional dancing costumes that are worn now. Yeah, Nash might be a little bland, but nowhere as bland as Facile. Yeah. Especially the headdress, because it has a lot of feather to it. They look almost like pheasant feathers in a lot of these headdresses, which is pretty cool. And there's a lot more skin shown in the dancing outfits. So I'm gonna run with that. I'm looking for some good, like, clear shots. A lot of these are like people taking photos at festivals and stuff, which is awesome because it looks like these are legitimate native Mesoamerican people, which is super cool. But a lot of these are being taken at like parades and festivals and stuff, which means they're not the best shots to base like painting off of. It's cool. I'm gonna find something good. Hey, DG Dell, how's it going? Oh, she's great. She's fantastic. This is exactly what I wanted. Awesome. That's definitely the headdress that I want to be sort of looking at. So the really cool thing about a lot of the headdresses and the pheasant feathers is that they have an almost stripiness to them. So that's going to be awesome. I really like this one too. She's great. She's great. So she's not dancing. So she doesn't have like the sort of little shaker things around her ankles. But she is wearing a sort of waistcloth like that. I would have liked her to be wearing more of a skirt so that her butt wasn't hanging out. Don't think she cares. Don't think she cares. So we're gonna go with like a dark tanned leather. I think sort of feel for the cloth part of it. But we're gonna do detailing around the belt. We're gonna do detailing. I'm actually gonna try and paint in some detailing down the front here. And we're definitely going to make like the bits around her shoulders and stuff more detailed. So let's run with that. So I was looking, the reason I was looking in the instructions is that I was looking for the time period she was living in. And I keep forgetting whether she's Mayan or Aztec. She's Aztec. So, yes. So a little bit of business while I'm looking for just the right color for what I'm doing. Actually, I've found it. Little bit of business. We are going to be running on Sunday afternoons, one Sunday a month for the coming 3 months or so, starting at the end of this month. We're going to be doing a D&D game run by Andy. Andy's gonna be DM, running myself, Insidious Pie from our chat, my friend Sarah, and my friend Amy, and possibly our friend Andrew, depending on if we can get the camera set up to work for 5 players. We're gonna have a D&D game. It's gonna be a short-term game with the possibility of longer term if we all want to keep going, which would be cool. And we're going to be doing this set in the Ravnica world, set in the wide world of Ravnica. I'm incredibly excited about this idea. I'm super looking forward to being a part of this. I haven't fully decided on my character yet. Oh, cool. Yes, and Andy is painting Warhammer minis. He actually put them together and primed them. So he's going to be continuing that. And yeah, Ravnica, we're going to be starting that up on the 24th of February at 3 p.m. Eastern. What time is your Warhammer stream on Monday, Andy? Do I want to do this the burgundy that I'm looking at? Or, given that she's wearing green here, do I want to give her a dark green? $1 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern for Warhammer model stream. Awesome, thank you, Andy. What do you guys think? Since this is her modern day, do I want to do like a green as the cloth and the bra there? The reason I'm going with burgundy is because I did find a really great picture that I was kind of using as an inspiration. I was kind of thinking, oh, it's like leather work. But now I'm kind of thinking green makes a lot of sense for her. And might have been an easier, color to dye. Oh, that feather work is going to be so hard, but it's going to be so awesome. Waiting to see what you guys think about this. Action research. choice. So what do we think about colors, my friends? You know what, the feathers in here are bright blue. Maybe I go with like a turquoise blue. And we just run with it. I think we're gonna go with like a turquoisey greeny blue. Maybe we go with the burgundy and I do highlights. I think that's what I'll do. Seems uncomfortable. Amazing and garbage is my brand. Aw, that's too bad. I listened to this one artist, and now it's like infected my entire suggestion list. No, I don't want more of this. No. So I listened to this one artist, and it had like a lot of chiptune-y sort of stuff going on, and now probably about 3/4 of my Spotify Discover Weekly playlist is all chiptune stuff. I don't want to listen to that all the time. And what's annoying is that I've listened to a lot of stuff since then that is not chiptune-y. So... yeah, it's all chiptune. No, this is more just traditional techno. Thank God. Yeah, sometimes I don't want that one thing, and what's really frustrating to me is that I hadn't been listening to that one thing recently, but because I have listened to it in the past, apparently that's all it knows how to suggest to me. Which is, I suppose, is still a leg up on Pandora, which to this day is convinced that I just love me some R&B and some reggae. Neither of which are particularly my jam. Like, I'm gonna see the station with like the Labyrinth soundtrack, and I'm going to see the station with like Queen, and I'm gonna see the station with like the Matrix soundtrack, and then like 3 songs in it'll be like reggae. But where did that come from specifically? And I look at like its justification, and it's like, we're playing this song to you because you've indicated that you really like reggae beats. I'm like, but I don't know where that came from because that's not what I put into this station. You like slow jams. No, I don't. Please stop playing me slow music. Reggae, it's not like... There's a minor key that it tends to be in that doesn't do it for me. R&B, just, I find it too slow in general. I need things a little faster, especially if I'm putting something on in the background while I work. It's gotta keep me moving. If it's too slow, I'm I gave up on Pandora. I was like, I can't. It doesn't matter what I put in, and it doesn't matter what I thumbs up. It's gonna go to R&B and reggae no matter what I do, so. I kind of wish what it did was identify various, like, things about a song and, like, give you a little checklist and go, like, did you like the tempo of this song? Did you like the vocals? Did you like that it has a piano? Did you like this? So I actually started, at one point, I seeded a station with the Only Lovers Left Alive soundtrack, which is all, like, discordant mandolins. Guess what it ended up on after, like, 4 tracks? And I hadn't thumbs up anything, like I hadn't thumbs up or thumbs down anything on it because I had liked all of it just fine, but I had been busy, so I hadn't really been stopping to respond to the station at all. Reggae. How? Where did that come from? Like, where did you get that particular feedback from? It wasn't me. Just not for me. In the same way that, like, I'm not a show tunes person. I'm not big on show tunes. Got no problem with other people liking them. They're just not for me. Like, okay, the song I'm listening to right now is definitely techno, but it has a sort of reggae-inspired bit in the middle. That's fine. This is never going to be my favorite song. But it's definitely minor key, and I can't. Yeah, not into any of this. Let's go back to these guys. Actually, there was something I was going to check. Cool. We're going to listen to the Brave New Faves soundtrack from their last episode. That means I'm starting stuff off with King Gizzard. That was a stopped up paint bottle. I was once in a really, I was grumpy, and I was looking for angry music to listen to, like good, shouty, angry, grungy sort of stuff. And a friend of mine, it's very sweet, but we do not share music taste, suggested a musician to me. It wasn't someone I knew, and I honestly don't remember who it was now. And I was like, sure, cool. Looked her up, and it was folk music. I was like, that's not anger. And it wasn't like angry folk protest music. It was just, calm stuff. I was like, this isn't even like play during a breakup sort of angry. She meant well. My music taste is weird, so I don't expect most people to be able to nail what I might like. I don't know. Anger is sort of a specific thing to ask for. I'm pretty happy with how the colors are looking on this. sure this is one out goods. This is making me happy. I don't want the bright yellow of the new gold color, but I also don't want it to be quite as faded as the old gold, so mix. gotta shake that a little more. Thanks. She's coming out really nicely. I'm really happy with how she's looking. I'm gonna have to do more detail work on like her belt. The bottle's all stopped up today. That one wasn't nearly as bad as some of the others were. The reason I'm painting these dark brown is because they look, I gotta double check, but the feathers that I'm looking at in a lot of the traditional headdresses worn by modern Aztec dancers, modern like Mexican dancers who are native to the area, involve these headdresses with these long feathers. They're very cool. Okay, yeah, they're pheasant. They're those really long pheasant tail feathers, and they are like white and dark brown striped. So what I'm doing is I'm laying down the dark brown, and we're gonna do like off-white striping on them. And then, once we've done that, the ones at the top are definitely, we want to keep the dark teal on. One, because a lot of the headdresses I'm seeing do have like really bright colors at the top, but also because that's on her card. And while her card is not 100% how she's dressed here, it does give us a guideline to work with. And that guideline that I'm working with is sort of saying, you want there to be some visual cue that what you're looking at on the card is the character you have in your hand. And so that's what she is going to have. And then we're going to add a few like blue feathers in on top of that. Did we just get another follow? We did. Celtic Balrog, thank you. I think, Andy, I think that puts us at 200 follows. Pretty sure. Yeah! That's really exciting. That's awesome. We'll have to celebrate tonight on the stream. Awesome. Having a nice painting afternoon. Nice to have someone from the Saugus store joining us. I don't know if you were watching when we were talking about Andy painting Warhammer stuff on Monday, but indeed on Monday Andy's going to be painting some Warhammer figures. He's got some Tau he's going to be working on. And that's going to be at, what did you say time that was? (1 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern for Warhammer stuff. So he's going to be painting these guys. Yeah. That's awesome. I love painting. Ooh, dropped some frames there. I'm gonna pause on her for a second since I have the steel out. Sure. I'm not packing up just yet. I am getting out a wash. Well, I'm getting out a couple of washes from the other box. Here's the thing I want. That's the thing I want. Yeah, that's fine. That said, I probably am going to finish the stream up on the sooner side rather than the later side. I have a rather pressing need at the moment. It's about 5 o'clock, so it seems about right. Yeah, so when I say pheasant feathers, I'm meaning that like stripy, yeah. She's looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with like what's going on with her, but she needs a lot of detail work. He's gonna get a wash right now. So we're gonna do a wash on him. We're actually gonna do a wash on her, and then I think we're gonna call it a day. Yes, we will be back at 7:30 Eastern with a game of K2, which is a mountain climbing game, so that should be interesting and fun. And then on Monday, Andy will be back painting his Warhammer figures. And then we'll be back later in the week to play something we have not decided on yet, next Friday. I might be back next Saturday for more painting times. I don't know yet. Maybe. Hopefully. If not, then I will see you the following week. But thank you for everyone who joined us. Thank you for that 200th follow from Celtic Balrog. I really appreciate that. That's very exciting. And I hope I will see people again in the next week or so. I'm going to finish doing a wash on Connor's jacket here until Andy can get up here to turn things off. He's looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with how he came together. So we're going to let him sit. And the last thing we're going to do, and this is like terrifying, we're going to try and do her skin. Hi.
Say goodbye to folks already?
Yeah, I'm just doing her skin and hoping I don't completely mess her up. It's going a little dark. Yeah. So we're gonna wipe some of that off. Wow, that blue, when I closed it, just sprayed everywhere. Well, I wanted that. She has a very warm skin tone. Just looking at the natural skin tone of people living in that area, especially at that time, you're looking at a very warm skin tone.
Well,
so I'm going to try and get that done, and we'll put some of this on here, and then we'll water it down a little bit. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, thank you for joining me. We'll get back to these guys the next time I have a chance to paint, and hopefully finish up these two, and then get to some of the other figures in the expansion. We're almost halfway there.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I hope people have been enjoying watching me paint them. And we will see you later tonight for K2.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.